our architecture. In today's session, we are going to talk about load balancing. All right. So now first let's understand that we are going to develop a web application. That web application will be deployed inside one server. There will be one server. Inside that server, our application will be deployed. Inside the server, our application will be deployed. Here, we are going to have a client. That means a user. The user is going to access the application by sending a request to the server. As our application is a web application, multiple users can access the web application at a time. Multiple users can access our web application at a time. That means so many users will be sending a request to the web application at a time. When all the users are accessing the application, the requests are going to single server. Multiple user web application is running inside the server. Web application running inside server. Web application running in server. Clients will send a request to the server to access our application. Clients will send request to server to access our web application. Clients will send a request to server to access our web application. Server will process the request. Server will process the request and it will send response to client. It will send response to client. Multiple clients can access, multiple clients can send the request at the same time. That means multiple clients can access the web application at a time. Multiple clients can access our web application at a time. Multiple clients can access our web application at a time. If so many requests are coming to the server, then burden will be increased on the server. If so many requests are coming, to server, then burden will be increased on the server. If so many requests are coming to server, then burden will be increased on the server. Now, if a burden is increased on the server, then there are n number of drawbacks are available. Right? First, understand web application running inside the server. We are going to deploy our web applications inside the server. Clients are going to send the request to the server. Right? Client will send a request to server to access our web application. Server will process the request. And will send the response to the client. Multiple clients can access our web application at a time. If so many requests are coming to the server, then burden will be increased on the server. Okay. If a burden increases on the server, then there are some drawbacks. If a burden increased on the server, then what will happen? Request processing will take time. Responses will come slowly. Responses will be delayed for the clients. responses will be delayed for clients. Server might crash. Server might crash. These are the problems if you are deploying your application in the single server. Now tell me, in the real time, the Gmail application, Facebook application are running in one server, because the traffic is huge. Because the traffic is huge for the Gmail, Facebook, Flipkart, and all. Worldwide, so many users are going to access. Worldwide, so many users are going to access these applications: Facebook application, Flipkart application, Naukri application, and Gmail application. These applications, so many users are going to access. LinkedIn application, worldwide LinkedIn is famous, Gmail is famous, Facebook is famous, Amazon is famous. All these applications, so many users are accessing at a time. So many users are accessing these applications at a time. Okay. If multiple people are accessing the application at a time, if that application is running on one server, then burden will be increased on the server. Too much load will be there on the server. If a burden increased on the server, then what is the problem? Request processing will take time, responses will be delayed for the clients, and the server might get crash. To overcome these problems, we are going to use load balancing in the real time. What is the load balancing, guys? To overcome the above problems, we will use load balancing. To overcome the above problems, we will use load balancing. What is load balancing? The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. What is load balancing? The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. The process of deploying our application in multiple servers. The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load. Is called as load balancing. The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. If you deploy your application in one server, that server may not be able to handle the load because too much traffic is coming. So many users are accessing the application at a time. If so many users are accessing the application at a time, all the requests are coming to the single server, then burden will be increased on the server. Here, if the burden increased on the server, then what are the problems? Request processing will take time. Responses will be delayed for the clients, and the server might get crash. To overcome the above problems, we will use a concept called load balancing. What is a load balancing? The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. What is load balancing, guys? The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. Now, how we are going to achieve that load balancing? Instead of taking one server, I am going to take multiple servers. Instead of taking one server, I'm going to take multiple servers to deploy our application like this. Instead of taking one server, I will be taking multiple servers to deploy our application. All right. Now this is server 1, server 2, server 3, etc. You can take n number of servers like this. You can take 2 servers or you can take 4 servers also, depends upon your requirement. You can take 2 servers or you can take 3 servers or you can take 4 servers, depends upon your requirement. You can take 50 servers also. You can take the 50 servers also. Here our application will be deployed. In all these servers, our application will be deployed. In all these servers, our application will be deployed. We can call it as instance 1. That means one server, instance 1. This is called as instance 2. And this is called as instance 3. And this is called as instance 4. Instance 1, instance 2, instance 3, instance 4. Our application is deploying in multiple servers at a time. Now, here there will be one more server here. That server is called as load balancer. That server is called as load balancer. It is one more server. That is one more server. Now, all the instances will be connected to this load balancer. All these servers will be connected to load balancer. Whenever a request, whenever client access the application, whenever client access our application, the request will come to load balancer only. Clients are going to access our application by using load balancer URL only. Now, here clients are available to access our application. Client 1, client 2, client 3, client 3, like this. So many people are accessing our application at a time because our application is a web application. Multiple users can access our application at a time. Multiple users can access our application at a time. This user will access our application. This user will access our application. This user will access our application. Now, user sending a request to the server. User sending a request to the server. So they will send a request to the server. Now, this is also one server. This is actual, I can say that www.facebook.com. The URL that you are hitting in the browser, that URL belongs to load balancer. This is called domain name, guys. This is called as a domain name. Generally, here every instance will have a IP. Every instance will have a IP 192.168.168.100.1, 100.1, and this also will have a IP 100.2, and this also will have one IP 100.3, and this is having a IP 100.4, 100.4, and this also is having a IP. This also is having a IP that is 100.5. Now, here guys, are you sending the request to the IPS directly, or you are sending a request to the URL? Are you sending the request to the IP, or you are sending the request to the URL? Come on. Are you sending the request to the IP, or you are sending the request to the URL? You are sending a request to the URL. So what will happen, guys? Here, server IP address will be configured with application domain URL, application domain name, that is called DNS. Note. LBR server IP will be configured with DNS, that is a domain name service. That is domain name service. When you access application domain, that will be redirected to server based on the IP. Guys, like this, our application will be running in multiple instances. One instance, nothing but one computer, guys. One instance is nothing but one computer. Instead of running our application in one computer, we are going to run our application in multiple computers. We are going to run our application in multiple computers. Every computer will have its own IP address. Every computer will have its own IP address. Now, when our application is running in multiple computers, are we going to give the multiple URLs to the public to access our application? Facebook1.com, Facebook2.com, Facebook3.com. Are we giving multiple URLs for the people to access our application? Are we giving multiple URLs for the people to access our application? Guys, come on. Are we giving multiple URLs to the people to access our application? We are not going to give multiple URLs for the people to access our application. We are giving only one URL. We are giving single URL for the people to access our application. We are giving single URL for the people to access our application. Okay. All the instances IPs will be mapped with LBR IP. LBR, this is also a server. What is the duty of this LBR is, whenever clients send a request to this URL, that is the application domain name, application domain URL. That's the domain URL will be mapped with the IP address. The domain URL will be mapped with the IP address. Clients will send a request to this URL, that URL mapped with the domain name mapped with this IP. So this request will go to this LBR. LBR will send the request to instance 1. First request will go to first instance. Second request will go to second instance. Third request will go to third instance. Fourth request will go to fourth instance. Like that. Instead of giving all the requests to the single instance, all the requests will be distributed to multiple instances. Then what is the problem? Simple, man. If I give you 500 kg bag, can you carry? If I keep a 500 kg rice bag on you, can you carry that bag? No. Similarly, if 1 lakh requests sent to the single server at a time, then the server cannot handle that. If 1 lakh people are accessing our application at a time, if 1 lakh requests are sent to the single server, then server cannot handle that load. Server cannot handle that load. So to avoid that problem, instead of sending all the requests to the single server, we are going to deploy our application in multiple servers. All the servers are connected to load balancer. All the servers are connected to load balancers. When the servers are connected to the load balancer, whenever request comes to the load balancer will distribute that load to multiple servers. Our application will be deployed into multiple servers. Every server is called as one instance. Our application will be deployed in multiple servers. Every server is called as one instance. Every server is called as one instance. Every server is called as one instance. You got my point? All the instances will be connected to LBR, which is nothing but load balancer. Load balancer is responsible to distribute the load to all the instances. LBR is responsible to distribute the load to multiple instances. Load balancer is responsible to distribute the load to multiple instances. Are you guys clear with my point? What is a load balancing? The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. Here, instead of deploying our application, if I deploy my application in one server, if multiple people are accessing our application, all the requests will go to single server, then burden will be increased on the server. If burden is increased, then server will crash, response will become slow. So many problems are there. To overcome that problem, we are going for load balancing. The process of deploying our application in multiple servers to distribute the load is called as load balancing. I'm taking 4 instances, nothing but I'm taking 4 servers. Every instance is nothing but one server. In 4 instances, I'm deploying my application. If I deploy my application to 4 instances, I cannot give the 4 URLs to the people to access my application. I cannot give the 4 URLs to the people to access my application. So that's why what I'm going to do, I'm going to configure my 4 instances to one load balancer. I'm going to configure my 4 instances to one load balancer. For the load balancer IP, I will configure DNS name. I will give this DNS name to the public. Now, so many users are accessing our application by using this URL. Whenever they access this URL, request will go to the server which is having this IP. In that LBR is available. A request comes here. This LBR will distribute the load to first server. Second request came. Instead of giving the second request to first server, it will give the second request to second server. That means this LBR is going to distribute the load to multiple servers by using round robin technique. First request will go to first server, second request will go to second server, third request will go to third server, fourth request will go to fourth server, fifth request will go to first server, round robin, one after other, one after other. Okay, guys, if any one of the server is down, is there any problem for us? Suppose if this server is down, do we have any problem for that? Do we have any problem for that? No problem, because our application is running in the remaining servers. Our application is running in the remaining servers. Okay. Now here, LBR server IP will be configured with the domain name service. Our application will be deployed in multiple servers. Every server is called as one instance. Every server is called as one instance. All the instances will be connected to the LBR, that is called as load balancer. Load balancer is responsible to distribute the load to multiple instances. Load balancer is responsible to distribute the load to multiple instances. Are you clear with this? Look at this diagram. Guys, are you able to see the diagram? You understand it.